Her words, they still ring in my ears even now, a cold knife twisting in my gut. Is there someone else? God, the shame, the absolute soul-crushing shame. It wasn't a shouted accusation, not at first. It was a quiet question, born from weeks, maybe months of unspoken disappointment, of forced smiles that didn't quite reach her eyes, of a growing distance between us that felt colder than any winter night. We were in bed, late. I'd pretended to be asleep for at least an hour, listening to her soft breathing beside me, praying she wouldn't reach for me, knowing with a sickening certainty that she probably wouldn't. The air was thick with unspoken tension. We used to fill these silences with whispers, with touches, with the easy comfort of two souls intertwined. Now it was just empty. And then she asked, just like that. No preamble, no build-up, just, is there someone else? I wanted to lie. God, I wanted to lie so badly, to protect her, to protect myself, to pretend that everything was okay, that we were okay, that I was okay. But the words caught in my throat, choked by the weight of my failure. The truth was a heavy stone, lodged in my chest, and it wouldn't let me speak. I just stared at the ceiling, the shadows dancing in the dim light filtering through the curtains. Unable to meet her gaze, unable to deny the truth that hung between us like a shroud. She didn't press me. She didn't need to. The silence was answer enough. I could feel her tears on the pillow beside me, silent and heartbreaking, each drop a tiny hammer blow against my already shattered self-esteem. The morning light. That's what we used to call it. That spontaneous, undeniable sign of, well, of life, of vitality, of a healthy, functioning body. It was a silly little thing, I know, but it was our thing. A private joke, a secret affirmation of our connection, a symbol of the passion that burned between us. And then it just stopped. Slowly at first, fading gradually, like a dying ember. I told myself it was stress, work, lack of sleep. Anything but the truth that was staring me in the face, anything but the reality that my body was failing me, that I was failing her. I started avoiding intimacy, making excuses, blaming fatigue, headaches, anything to avoid the inevitable disappointment, the crushing embarrassment of, well, of not being able to perform. Each failed attempt chipped away at my confidence, leaving me feeling like less of a man. I saw the change in her, the flicker of disappointment in her eyes, the subtle withdrawal, the way she stopped initiating touch. It was killing me, but I didn't know what to do. I was trapped in a cycle of fear and shame, unable to break free, the fear of losing her. That was the worst part. I loved her, more than anything in the world. She was my best friend, my confidant, my lover. She was the rock in my storm, the light in my darkness, and I was watching her slip away, powerless to stop it. I imagined her with someone else, someone younger, stronger, more virile, someone who could satisfy her needs, both physical and emotional. The thought was a dagger twisting in my heart. I started to resent myself, my body, my weakness. I felt like a fraud, a failure, a shell of the man I used to be. I was trapped in a nightmare, and I couldn't wake up. I remember one night, after another failed attempt, I sat alone in the bathroom, staring at my reflection in the mirror. My eyes were bloodshot, my face pale and drawn. I looked like a ghost of my former self. I hated what I saw. I hated what I had become. I hated the way I was hurting her. I almost broke. Right then and there, I almost gave up. I almost accepted that this was my fate, that I was destined to live a life of quiet desperation, watching the woman I loved drift further and further away. I remember thinking, this can't be it. This can't be the end of our story. This can't be the sum total of my life. There has to be a way out. There has to be something I can do. That night, I went down a rabbit hole. Hours of frantic searching online, desperate for answers, for solutions, for anything that could offer a glimmer of hope. I felt like I was drowning, grasping at straws. I tried everything, pills, creams, exercises. Nothing worked. Some things even made it worse. I was losing hope and the weight of despair was crushing me. I started to think this was just my new reality. A life sentence of inadequacy and regret. I was at my lowest point. I was on the verge of losing everything. My wife, my confidence, my sense of self. I was a broken man, teetering on the edge of oblivion. I was ready to give up. And then I stumbled across something that changed everything, something that finally, after months of torment, offered a ray of hope. But before I tell you about that, you need to understand just how desperate I was, how close I came to losing it all. Because without that context, you won't understand the sheer, unadulterated relief that washed over me when I finally found the answer. The silence in the house was deafening. Every night the space between us in bed felt wider, colder. I could feel Sarah pulling away, not physically but emotionally. The sparkle in her eyes, the playful touch, the easy laughter. It was fading, disappearing like smoke in the wind. I knew I was failing her, failing us. And the worst part was, I didn't know why. I started obsessing. Sleepless nights were spent lost in the labyrinth of the internet, desperately searching for answers. I typed in every symptom, every fear, every shameful thought that plagued me. I was grasping at straws, clinging to any thread of hope. Most of it was garbage. Snake oil salesmen promising the moon for a fistful of dollars. I was almost ready to throw in the towel, convinced that I was doomed to a life of disappointment and regret. Then late one night, bleary-eyed and running on fumes, I stumbled across a research paper. It was dense, filled with medical jargon, but one phrase jumped out at me: nitric oxide. The paper detailed a connection between common oral hygiene practices and the production of this vital molecule, specifically mouthwash. Mouthwash. The very thing I used every morning religiously to keep my breath fresh and my teeth clean. The thing I thought was helping me. The thing that was apparently slowly killing my, well, everything. The science, as I slowly pieced it together, was almost unbelievable. Nitric oxide, or NO, is a crucial molecule that our bodies produce. It's a vasodilator, meaning it relaxes and widens blood vessels, allowing for increased blood flow throughout the body. Think of it like opening up the floodgates, allowing vital nutrients and oxygen to reach every cell, every organ. And yeah, that includes the one that matters most to a man. But here's the kicker. The bacteria in our mouths, specifically the good bacteria, play a vital role in converting nitrates from our diet into nitric oxide. These good bacteria live on the back of our tongue. And what does mouthwash do? It indiscriminately wipes out all the bacteria, good and bad, leaving a sterile wasteland in its wake. So by swishing that seemingly innocent blue liquid around every morning, I was essentially sabotaging my body's ability to produce nitric oxide. I was choking off the very life force that was essential for, well, for everything that makes a man a man. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt betrayed, lied to. For years, I had been bombarded with commercials telling me how important it was to use mouthwash, how it would kill germs, freshen breath, and keep my mouth healthy. But nobody, not a single damn advertisement, mentioned the potential downside. Nobody warned me that I was essentially flushing my manhood down the drain with every swish and spit. It felt like the hygiene companies were actively hiding something. They were profiting off my ignorance, selling me a product that was slowly but surely destroying my health, my confidence, and my marriage. The anger was overwhelming. I felt like screaming, smashing things, anything to release the pent-up frustration and resentment. But then a new feeling emerged, a flicker of hope. If I knew the problem, then maybe, just maybe, I could find a solution. I started researching everything I could find about nitric oxide, about how to boost it naturally, about how to restore the balance in my oral microbiome. I knew I couldn't just keep doing what I was doing. I was actively damaging myself, and I couldn't stand by and watch my life crumble around me. I realized I couldn't rely on those damn hygiene companies anymore. I couldn't trust their promises, their slick marketing, their misleading claims. I needed to take control of my own health, my own body, my own destiny. I needed a way to fix this naturally. That's when I discovered the guide for anyone interested in learning and discovering how mature men are supporting healthy blood flow and vitality naturally without relying on artificial solutions. It was a turning point. It was the first time in months that I felt a glimmer of hope, a sense that maybe, just maybe, I could reclaim my life, my health, and my relationship. So I found the specific ingredients. After weeks of research, poring over studies, and feeling like a goddamn medical student again. Vitamin C, the real stuff, not that synthetic crap. Pine bark extract, something I'd never even heard of before, but the science behind it was undeniable. And L-Citrulline, which I vaguely remembered from some old workout supplement I'd taken years ago. I was mixing these things together, measuring out dosages like I was a goddamn pharmacist. It was exhausting. I was tired of researching, tired of mixing, tired of hoping. But I was also terrified of failing. The stakes were just too high. Then I stumbled across something, a supplement called Boostaro. It wasn't some miracle cure promising overnight transformations. It wasn't some shady pill peddled by guys in lab coats in a fake office. It was just a clean, intelligently formulated supplement that contained everything I'd already been researching. Vitamin C, pine bark, L-Citrulline, all in the right dosages, all from reputable sources, all conveniently packaged in one place. Honestly, I felt like an idiot. All that time, all that effort, and the answer was staring me in the face. I was so desperate to figure it out myself that I almost missed the obvious solution. I ordered it immediately. I felt a surge of relief, maybe. Or maybe just the exhaustion finally catching up to me. When the Boostaro arrived, I didn't hesitate. I swallowed the first dose with a glass of water and went about my day, trying not to think about it, trying not to get my hopes up. I'd been burned too many times before. The first day, nothing. The second day, nothing. I started to feel that familiar pit of despair forming in my stomach. Here we go again, I thought. Another dead end, another false promise. But then, on the third day, something shifted. I woke up differently. There was a pressure, a fullness, a presence down there that I hadn't felt in what seemed like forever. I didn't want to get excited. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I'd felt fleeting glimmers of hope before, only to be crushed by disappointment. But as the day went on, the feeling persisted. It wasn't just a random morning erection. It was consistent. It was there. It was like a long dormant switch had been flipped and the power was slowly starting to flow again. I remember showering that morning and actually catching myself, admiring myself in the mirror. It sounds vain, I know, but after months of feeling like a shell of my former self, it was a small victory, a sign that maybe, just maybe, I was starting to come back to life. I didn't tell my wife anything, not yet. I wanted to be sure. I wanted to have proof. That night, we were watching TV, just like any other night. She was curled up on the couch next to me, but there was still that distance, that invisible wall that had grown between us. I reached for her hand. She looked at me, surprised. It had been a while since I'd initiated any physical contact beyond a quick peck on the cheek. I held her hand tight and just looked into her eyes. I saw sadness there, but also a flicker of something else. Maybe hope, maybe just a desperate longing for things to be the way they used to be. I leaned in and kissed her, and it was different. There was a spark, a connection. A fire that I hadn't felt in months. One kiss led to another and another, And then, well, then we were in the bedroom. I won't go into all the details. Let's just say it was passionate. It was raw. It was desperate. It was like we were rediscovering each other all over again. And afterwards, she just held me tight, and I could feel her tears on my shoulder. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of relief, of joy, of the gratitude. The next morning, she looked at me differently. There was a light in her eyes that I hadn't seen in a long time. The distance was gone. The wall had crumbled, and it just kept getting better. The morning salute was back, consistently, reliably. Not just a random occurrence, but a sign that my body was functioning the way it was supposed to. The energy was back, the confidence was back, the desire was back. And the sex was incredible. It was like we were newlyweds again. We were experimenting, we were laughing, we were connecting on a level that we hadn't experienced in years. My wife is happy again, truly happy. And that, more than anything, is what matters. I'm not going to lie, it wasn't just Bustaro. It was a catalyst, yes, but it was also me taking responsibility for my own health. It was me admitting I had a problem and being willing to do whatever it took to fix it. It was me choosing to fight for my marriage, to fight for my life. But Bustaro gave me the ammunition I needed to win that fight. It gave me back my confidence, my energy, and my ability to connect with my wife on a physical level. It saved my marriage. It saved my life. And if you're struggling with the same issues I was, if you're feeling like a shell of your former self, if you're watching your relationship crumble around you, then you owe it to yourself to explore this further. You owe it to yourself to take control of your health and your happiness. Don't let shame or embarrassment hold you back. Don't let the lies of the hygiene companies continue to damage your body and your life. There is hope. There is a solution. There is a way back to the man you used to be. Take the first step. Guide for anyone interested in learning and discovering how mature men are supporting healthy blood flow and vitality naturally without relying on artificial solutions.